Hello, welcome to Inspired Caring. I'm your host, Michele Magner. If you are caring for an older family member, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I bring insight, tips, inspiration, and strategies to help you care for the people that you love without losing yourself along the way. Having cared for both of my grandmothers, I've helped manage everything from hospital stays, households full of belongings, to navigating senior living and end-of-life care. And I've worked in senior living as a result of that experience, serving my residents and their families as they've been on this journey too. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Inspired Caring. Hello, my friends. I am laying on the floor with my doggie, having just a moment to do some breath work and stretch. And I was thinking about the question that someone asked me recently about taking their loved one with dementia to the funeral of their partner. And we had this exact situation come up within our family because my mother-in-law has dementia and doesn't really know exactly who we are at this point and is fairly non-communicative, and my father-in-law passed away. So yes, I'm sitting here with the puppy doing breath work and stretching and thinking about these things. And they asked, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think we should take them to the service? And I just thought I would share with you what we did and our thought process around it. So we made a decision as a family. It's my husband and his brother and myself to not take her to the service or the graveside, because where she is in her disease process, it would be way too confusing. Since she doesn't really know exactly who we are, I don't know, it's just imagining if you walked into a room full of people you're not quite sure who they are and they're all sad, you're really going to pick up on the energy of everybody around you and be upset and kind of confused because you're just looking around and what you're seeing are sad faces and maybe crying, maybe some laughter. But you'll just pick up on the energy of that, and it'd be really confusing. It also was kind of a safety issue because if we were to be distracted with anybody else and not absolutely paying attention to her, there's a chance she would walk out of the building. And it was very, very cold. It was winter. It doesn't really matter what the temperature is outside. It's just a safety issue in our circumstance. So those two things are what led us to the conclusion to not take her to the service because she just wouldn't know why she was there or what was happening or what it was for. And I actually texted most of the immediate family to alert them that that was the decision that had been made, so that when we got there, people would not be surprised that she wasn't there. And we were there for a very specific reason, to mourn the loss of my father-in-law and celebrate his life. And we didn't feel up for the third inquisition or whatever the phrase is, third degree, on why wasn't she there. And really, the family understood. I mean, they know her, they've seen her, they know the situation. And so it totally made sense to them. And what I asked them for was to put a little protective bubble around the three of us, my husband, his brother, and myself, because we knew that a lot of people would be gathering who knew them as a couple, and they knew Sherry was still alive. So I asked the family to just help intervene with those questions from other close friends. And it went pretty well. Now, I will say I forgot to text one family member about our protective bubble, And that family member's partner kind of hit us hard at the receiving line with the line of questioning we were trying to avoid. So that was my mistake to not alert that person. And I think that I handled it in the best way possible, and explained exactly what I just said to you, that it just would have been really confusing and upsetting and a safety issue at this point. And partially it's because the people that aren't really dialed into the current situation, they just don't have the information and they don't know. So they're going to make some judgments or have preconceived thoughts about what's possible based on misinformation or not the full information. So the question, to circle back, should you take someone who has dementia to the service of someone that's passed away that they were close to or love? And the question that I would offer you is, what are the motivating factors for taking them? Like what would you hope the outcome would be, or the desired outcome? And then look really truthfully and honestly, same word, right, at the situation and determine if that person is going to meet up to your expectation. Because if they don't know who died, if they don't know who they are at this point, then taking them to the service is going to be upsetting and confusing. If you think that ultimately it's a situation that would be manageable and that was something that would be healing to them, that's a decision that your family has to make. I will say it is a fragile place to be making these decisions for other people. But you know your family members best, and you know what the right answer is. So I just encourage you not to take someone someplace that you know it's not going to go well, or it's going to be kind of a disastrous outcome, because you don't feel like dealing with the people who are going to question the motives of why or why not for you taking them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So just ask yourself, what am I looking for here? What's the desired outcome? What am I hoping to accomplish by bringing them someplace? And are they able to meet that expectation or not? And what are my real motives for taking them? Is it because I just don't feel like dealing with the questioning or looks or judgment? Or maybe it would be fine, and you determine it would be fine. So that was our experience. And ultimately, like we had talked about, not really telling her that he had actually passed away, because, again, the recognition was questionable. And if her mind resets after like 3 seconds at this point. So having a lot of solemn people around crying, would be upsetting. I'm curious what research would show us on this going forward, if that was not the best choice, which I think is one of the interesting things about dementia. Is we used to teach, even in nursing school, to reorient people and get them reacclimated to their current environment and circumstances, and that is not what we teach anymore. So I'm open that it wasn't necessarily the right decision. I feel like it was. It felt like it was for our family at the time. And just encourage you to, as you are stepping into situations like that, think about the questions that I offered and do what you feel like is best for your loved one and your family, because you know them best. I hope that is helpful. I hope it's helpful. I know it can be pretty agonizing to be put in positions where you're having to make these types of decisions. And they are just so lucky that you are on their team and providing them extraordinary care. I love you, and I will see you next week. Bye.